Have you ever seen a small beetle rolling a ball of poop across the ground and wondered, why on earth is it called a dung beetle? The name sounds funny, maybe even a little gross, but it's also very direct. Is it just because it eats dung? Or is there a deeper history behind the name? And did you know that in some ancient cultures, this beetle was considered sacred? Stay tuned, because at the end of this video, I'll ask you 3 trivia questions to test how closely you listened. So, why is it called a dung beetle? Let's break it down. First, the word dung. Dung is an Old English word that simply means animal waste or manure. It has been used for centuries in farming communities to describe the droppings of animals like cows, horses, elephants, and deer. The word comes from Old English dung, or dung, which meant manure used for fertilizing soil. So the word itself is very old, much older than modern science. Now the word beetle. Beetle comes from the Old English word bitela, which means little biter. That's because beetles have strong chewing mouth parts. They bite and chew their food instead of sucking it like butterflies or mosquitoes. Put those 2 words together, dung and beetle, and you get a very literal name, a beetle that deals with dung. But here's where it gets interesting. Dung beetles belong to a large family of beetles called the scarabs. Scientifically, most dung beetles are classified under the subfamily Scarabaeinae. These beetles specialize in feeding on feces. Instead of avoiding waste like most animals, they depend on it for survival. There are over 6,000 species of dung beetles around the world. They live on every continent except Antarctica. Wherever there are animals that produce waste, there are usually dung beetles nearby. But they don't just eat dung randomly. They have very specific behaviors. In fact, scientists group dung beetles into 3 main types based on how they use dung. First, the rollers. These are probably the most famous. Rollers shape dung into round balls and roll them away from the original pile. They bury the ball and either eat it or lay eggs inside it. When the larvae hatch, they feed on the dung ball. Second, the tunnelers. These beetles dig tunnels directly underneath a pile of dung and bury portions of it underground. Third, the dwellers. These beetles simply live and lay eggs inside the dung pile itself. So the name dung beetle isn't random at all. It perfectly describes their lifestyle. But there's more. In ancient Egypt, dung beetles were deeply respected. The Egyptians noticed how certain beetles rolled balls of dung across the sand. To them, this behavior resembled the sun moving across the sky. Because of this, they associated the beetle with the sun god. The sacred scarab beetle was linked to the god Khepri, who represented the rising sun and rebirth. The rolling of the dung ball symbolized the daily journey of the sun. Scarab amulets were worn for protection and rebirth. So even though today the name dung beetle sounds humorous or unpleasant, in ancient times these beetles symbolized life, renewal, and transformation. So, to sum it up, it's called a dung beetle because it is literally a beetle that specializes in dung. The word dung comes from Old English for manure. The word beetle means little biter. Together, the name perfectly describes both what it is and what it does. Simple name, extraordinary creature. All right, let's see how much you learned. Here are 3 trivia questions. Ready? Let's get started. Question 1. What does the word beetle originally mean? A. Tiny crawler. B. Little biter. C. Hard shell insect. D. Soil digger. Correct answer, B. Little biter. The word beetle comes from the Old English word bitela, meaning little biter. This refers to the beetle's chewing mouth parts. Unlike butterflies that sip nectar or mosquitoes that pierce skin, beetles chew their food. The name focuses on how they eat, not how they look. Next question. Why did ancient Egyptians associate dung beetles with the sun? A. They were golden in color. B. They lived in deserts. C. Rolling dung resembled the sun's movement. D. They only came out during sunrise. Correct answer. C. Rolling dung resembled the sun's movement. Ancient Egyptians observed dung beetles rolling balls of dung across the sand. This reminded them of the sun traveling across the sky each day. Because of this similarity, the beetle became associated with rebirth and the rising sun. The god Khepri symbolized this daily renewal. Last question. What important ecological role do dung beetles perform? A. Pollinating flowers. B. Recycling nutrients into soil. C. Producing oxygen. D. Hunting mosquitoes. Correct answer. B. Recycling nutrients into soil. Dung beetles break down and bury animal waste. This process returns nutrients to the soil, improving fertility and plant growth. They also reduce parasites and flies by removing dung quickly. Without them, waste would accumulate, harming ecosystems and agriculture. So next time you see a dung beetle rolling its little ball across the ground, remember, its name may be straightforward, but its impact on the world is anything but small. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution.